Good morning, guys. The day is getting on me here. Just busy stuff with work. Surprisingly, the real estate market has been picking up for me, anyways, in the past couple weeks. I got a couple showings today, a listing comparison to do for a client. We met them last night. We'll be listing that nice kind of Airbnb type property near the water, nice area. Well, I'm not going to get into that. You're not here to hear me ramble about real estate stuff. I don't think, anyways. Today, I wanted to get into a little topic. It's not going to be a super long video, but I wanted to get into where I think the future of thrifting is actually going to go and how this is going to impact people who are reselling. To me, the thrifting, I think it's going to be kind of bleak if you're into reselling. And I honestly think overall that thrifting as we kind of know it is just, it's not going to die, but physical in-store thrifting, I have a feeling, may at some point die in the way that we know it, and I'll tell you why. So to me, we go into a thrift store now, we're looking for a deal. Say we're looking for goods for ourselves. You go into a thrift store, yeah, you might find some decent shirts or shoes or whatever you're looking for. It doesn't really matter. The thrift stores have moved from being a cheap place for everyone to go buy stuff, like when we were in the 90s, when I was buying stuff in high school and had a part-time job. I can go buy a t-shirt for $2 or a pair of pants for like $3 or something, right? Thrift stores aren't like that now, at least where I live and the surrounding area, even province-wide. I've been to thrift stores hours away in the big cities. They're all the same. They're just large businesses now. That's their prerogative. They've always been large businesses. They just figured out now that they can squeeze the consumers and get as much money out of them as possible. It is what it is. I don't really want to get into that. We all know that. You can see the videos on TikTok and YouTube and Facebook of people going into a Value Village and there's a crappy old torn up Columbia coat that they're wanting $200 for, or a set of friggin' cups that's worth like $5 they want like 50 for, and stuff like that. In my opinion, the people that rush into the thrift stores looking for stuff to buy to resell, it's going to get harder and harder, in my opinion, to do that. And I've already seen it over the past 4 or 5 years myself, just mainly going in to buy stuff for my own collections. At some point, these stores will get too expensive for resellers to shop in them anymore. It's not going to be worth resellers. And you'll see these stores, they'll end up hiring a bunch more people, and they'll go through every single item they get that's of value. They'll go on eBay, whether Amazon or Poshmark or Etsy. They'll go on these, they'll have AI do it. They'll look up the price and they'll put that price on it, or they'll price it like $1 or $2 lower or something. And this, at some point, it may just squeeze the resellers completely out of going to these stores. I see people, there's, don't get me wrong, they'll still rush in and they'll find a few things. You know yourself, as a corporation, these businesses will find a way to make the most money off the physical locations, because that's where the biggest overhead is, guys. I'm not being doom and gloom here. I'm being honest, and I do think that these stores at some point will start charging the retail price for everything. There won't be any deals in them. It'll just be like a retail used store. You'll go in, you'll pay retail, and if you don't, well, tough titty. You're not going to be able to source reselling items from them anymore. And that's just my opinion. I think that's coming. Sorry to ramble on there and be a little bit doom and gloom. That's just how I see things going in the future. That these companies can put stuff online. The world is their oyster, right? They don't even need the physical stores as much. The only reason they really need those physical stores now is they want people to donate their junk, and they can operate under the guise of that they're giving a ton of money to charity and shit, which they don't. They'll keep those physical stores open for that reason, pretty much. It's just like a giant warehouse. They can pay employees to sort them. And you know yourself, if you go online, you can see like Goodwill and all these companies, they have a huge presence online now. The writing is on the wall for that. I think most of the sourcing is going to come from people just face to face on Marketplace, Kijiji, Craigslist. It'll go back to that sort of, go to your neighbors, go out yard sailing, hit the pavement, look for the deals. Honestly don't know how people are making a lot of money reselling. And this is just my area and what I've seen in my province, guys. I don't go down to the States to buy shit because obviously our dollar's not worth it to do something like that. And I wouldn't waste my time and gas doing it anyways. It's not worth it. But up here in Canada, for my Canadian people, if you have a different experience where you live, I would totally love to hear it. And don't get me wrong, there's people that'll pound the pavement and can still get deals at these places. It's just something I've seen over the past 4 or 5 years where the decline of deals at these places, it seems to get less every year. At some point, it's just not going to be worth going for that. Now, on the flip side, if you're truly into collecting things, vintage items, and stuff like that, or kitchenware and stuff, and you don't mind paying retail or maybe paying just a little bit of a discount, these stores will still be fine for that. I'm sure they will still flourish for that customer base. Don't think them weeding out resellers will kill their business by any stretch, especially being in the online marketplace now. I just don't think it won't. They have the power of getting items for free, and most people don't. So they get, a truckload of items and give someone a 25% coupon off stuff in the store that they've already got for free anyway. So they're not really losing out on either end of that deal. And odds are you're going to buy a bunch of shit from the store anyways, right? At some point, you're going to see a lot of these lineups and stuff in the mornings probably fizzle out. You'll have the hardcore people that'll still go, become less and less, especially if the price of fuel rises, or just fixing up your car, beating the shit out of it, running around doing this stuff. I don't see it as a feasible option down the road. I just don't, guys. What will keep these thrift stores in business is the rise of people wanting vintage stuff again. Now, if you're someone from my generation that grew up and your parents were boomers, you saw a huge market for old antiques, like, old farm implements, or the antique furniture, that stuff, tea sets or silverware, whatever. That market has nosedived. And it's just because I believe the boomer generation has gotten so much older. They're not, in that 40 to 60-year-old range where they have some disposable income and they can buy stuff. So I think the new generations were buying stuff from, stuff that we grew up with. And that's going to be stuff from like the 70s and the 80s, maybe a bit of the 60s, the 90s, that 40-year generation. That's the kind of vintage stuff that'll be bread and butter for these stores going forward. Whether it's the kitchen stuff, like a lot of the furniture from that area is shit and people's not going to buy it. But, just the stuff that actually had colorful, like, it's really hard to explain. If you grew up in my generation, like the reds, the oranges, the greens and stuff. I have a feeling that old kitschy, vintagey looking stuff's gonna come back. Like crock pots or Corningware, stuff like that, Pyrex, all that stuff. The vintage video game stuff, the vintage electronics, all that stuff people are getting back into, guys. They really want to get into like a more sustainable way of living, more like our parents did, and we totally got out of that. We've delved into being a throwaway society, and I think as we go along here now, there's just not as much disposable income to be a throwaway society anymore. So I think we're going to revert back to buying stuff of a bit better quality and hoping it lasts longer. And if that means buying vintage stuff that lasts forever, then so be it as well. I don't mean to go off the rails of this topic, talking about economic stuff and that. It all ties in on to whether these thrift stores are going to keep doing what they're doing. I think they're going to keep in existence. Obviously there is a market for that stuff, but I think you're going to see in the next 5 years their shift away from having stuff that resellers can buy at less than half price and sell it. And you're already seeing it now. They have their display cases and they're trying to make as much money as possible. I don't blame them, because really, what do they give a shit about a reseller, right? So I would plan on pivoting, guys. You might have to do a little more pavement pounding, hitting flea markets, hitting yard sales. Like what I do when summer comes up, I got 3 or 4 months, I buy a shitload of stuff. That's why I'm going to have a yard sale and empty out the shed. I'll throw it in there and then I'll list it for the rest of the year when I have some spare time. And that's the way it'll be. It works for me. I've noticed with the economy, there's been a downturn. So we'll see how that goes, and I'll definitely let you know. Just in closing, guys, make sure when you go into these thrift stores, you set a budget for yourself. You're not going crazy with stuff. Just because this junk is in a thrift store, it doesn't mean it's worth more than the price you're seeing on the tag. Like, they're trying to gouge as much money as they can. But you will see their business model. They're going to start doing everything at retail. They'll start selling more and more online. That's how they're going to grow their business. They'll keep their shareholders happy. They'll squeeze the resellers out. And you'll definitely see a different change of attitudes in the markets and stuff on eBay. It will be harder to find stuff for resale. I'm not going to kid you. You just got to get your nose down to the grind and get out there and find it. I hope everyone's having a good day. If you like this video and any other of my videos, check them out. Please like, comment, and subscribe below. I really appreciate the support. I will see you on the next one. Happy selling.